Good afternoon. This is the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. I'm Cliff Kelley. It's TGIF Day, Friday, December 7th. We are on iHeartRadio. All you need to do is download the app to your smartphone or tablet and take us with you wherever. You can also go to WVON.com. You can call us direct, 773-591-1690, and you can get social, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Well, before I introduce our distinguished in-studio guest, I didn't mention this earlier because we started off with something right away when it came on. A lot of people don't remember about what this day means to a lot of people. December 7th was the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And when they talk about the greatest generation, it's so interesting that the president 41, who was just buried yesterday, was one of the heroes after that, doing 58 missions as a fighter pilot, which is just unbelievable. Also today is Dr. Tim Black's 100th birthday. And happy birthday, Dr. Tim Black, Timmy Black, professor and gentleman. And speaking of great people, we have one in our studio. He is Dr. Umar Johnson. How are you, sir?
Peace and love, Baba Cliff. I'm glad to be back in Chicago, glad to be back on the airline. Shout out to all my brothers and sisters here in the Windy City. It's my first time back since last December.
Isn't that great? I'm
yes,
so
sir.
happy to see you. You look wonderful.
Always, likewise, Baba.
You're taking care of yourself.
I'm trying.
That's right.
I'm trying. Those little Debbie cakes is getting the best of me, though.
Doesn't look like it. Look like you're doing all right.
All right.
Great. We want to talk about something, Doc, that is extremely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Black people, as you say, just a bit mentioned, that American higher education is a scam.
Yes. It is a scam. In fact, I was reading an article this morning, Baba Cliff, and it was put out by the Economic Policy Institute, EPI, a research group.
Great.
And they found that African Americans' college education is not translating into gains in the employment market. In fact, they said black youth graduating from college today will have the most difficult time of any group of blacks since the days of Jim Crow at finding a job. So to answer the question, is the college gamble paying off? It's not. It absolutely is not.
That's an extreme situation, Doc.
It very much is.
Yeah.
But see, college was never our goal, Baba Cliff. If you go back to the civil rights movement, black people were looking for employment,
right?
Not college. You see, because back in the 60s, you didn't need a college degree to live comfortably. A lot of our people worked with their hands. They worked in the factories. Up until 1970, you could have a job in a factory, making good money, good benefits, good retirement, and live a middle-class life. Many of our grandparents did not go to college and lived better than many of us who went to college. But in the 1980s, they revolutionized the economy, started shutting down the opportunities in the black community. And in order to deal with the lack of jobs, they diverted us into the university. So because there were no jobs, they started telling black people, send your children to college so they can get ahead, when the reality was they had no other place for us. And so now our children are graduating with their bachelor's, their master's degrees, and there are no jobs. Now, the black middle class, Baba Cliff, is largely a creation of the United States government. 80% of all black middle class persons work for some form of government: city government, state government, federal government, teachers, police, firefighters, local government officials. Why is that important? It's important because if the government did not hire black folks, white people definitely would not be. So the only reason why you even have a black middle class is because the government actively hires black people to give the illusion of inclusion.
Interesting, Doctor. Those middle class, though, you mentioned the teachers and all, which I totally agree with, but you got to go to college to get that.
You got to go to college to get that. Now, when we say college is a racket and a hustle and a con game, let me qualify that.
Okay.
We do need black teachers. We need black doctors. We need lawyers. We need engineers. We need psychologists. And in order to be in any of those professions, you need a college education.
Right.
So we agree there. Mm-hmm. But we also agree that every black child doesn't want to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a psychologist. Mm-hmm. So why are we ritualistically sending black children to college even if they don't desire to be something that requires a license or a certification? So for me, I have 3 questions that I ask black parents when we're thinking about college. Number 1, did you raise your child with enough discipline so that they can finish college if you send them? Because, see, that's the other problem. We are raising lazy black children who go to college and they can't focus, not because they can't do the work, but they don't have the discipline. So did you raise the child with enough discipline to succeed academically away from your house? Number 2, is that child going to major in a career that is economically relevant to the larger society when they get out? Because if they're majoring in something that does not matter and does not equal a job, then they will be impoverished and broke. And number 3, how can they use their career to empower the black community? Those are my 3 questions. Because what we have is colleges exploiting black children's desire to get an education. So you show up at the University of Chicago, hypothetically, and you say, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, right? So you want to be in pre-med, pre-law. Then you take the placement test. And they come back and they say, well, you didn't score high enough on this placement test. And talking about those tests is a whole nother conversation we can have because they are racially biased. So anyhow, you take the test, Baba Cliff, you don't score high enough, and then the academic advisor comes back and tells you, unfortunately, you didn't score high enough to be in the law program or the medical program. How about becoming a gym teacher? How about going into a liberal arts program? How about art history? And so they redirect you into some field. There's nothing wrong with being a gym teacher. I'm just hypothetically coming up with careers that you didn't choose, and many of which don't equal a livable wage income after you graduate.
Doctor, you reminds me of that story about the physician had a plumbing problem in his house. You know, if you can't flush the toilets, you got a major problem.
Exactly.
So he calls the plumber, and the plumber comes out and takes care of everything and gives him the bill, and the doctor says, damn, I don't make these kind of fees as a physician.
Exactly.
And the plumber said, I know, neither did I when I was a physician.
Wow,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
He left the medical field.
Because he can make more money. These
Yes.
people out here on the street, and as you state, there's a lot of folks that, we just don't do it. Well, they stop us from doing it.
Yes.
Because we had, when Mayor Washington was the mayor here in Chicago, they had the school there that was for technical training and all that, and they moved it out in the burbs.
Oh, without question.
Yeah, right.
Because the white labor unions
that's right.
don't want black folks competing for jobs that are reserved for white folks. In fact, when you look at the rise of crime, when you look at the rise of the single-parent black household, when you look at the rise of mass incarceration, it all concomitantly occurred with the deindustrialization of the inner city. In the 1970s, they deliberately took the auto, the electric, the plumbing, the carpentry, the welding. They deliberately took those industrial building programs out of the black inner cities all across America and sent our children to college. And by doing that, they were able to gain a monopoly on the industrial building trades.
Dr. Umar is in our studio. Dr. Umar Johnson. Black people know college is a scam. We just don't care. That's what he's talking
Yes,
about.
sir. Yes, sir. And we want everybody to come out tonight, too, Baba Cliff. I'm speaking.
We'll
Harold Washington Center.
We'll mention that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Our number is 591-1690. Obviously, we'd like to hear from you, and the doc will tell us about the event that's coming up tonight also. Stay with us. We'll be back with more in a moment.
Cliff Kelley on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Hi, I'm Angela from North Shore Gas. Winter can be tough. That's why we have funds available through our Share the Warmth program to help eligible customers pay for their natural gas bills.
Call Cap of Lake County at 847-249-4330 or visit NorthshoreGasDelivery.com.
The Callahan Foundation and Callahan Funeral Home proudly presents the 10th annual celebration of Giving Scholarship Benefits Gala, supporting the Callahan League of College Scholars. Saturday, December 15th, 6 p.m. at the Hyatt Regency, Chicago. For tickets, visit CallahanFoundation.org or call 773-723-3079, or you can stop by Callahan Funeral Home, 7030 South Halsted. Don't miss this night packed with dinner and entertainment by Grammy-nominated singer and songwriter P.J. Morton. The honorees for the evening, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., Miss Jackie Robinson Ivy, Mr. Leon Walker, and Mrs. Jamila Trimuel. For tickets, visit CallahanFoundation.org. Call 773-723-3079. 773-723-3079, or stop by Callahan Funeral Home, the home of personal service, 7030 South Halsted.
Looking to jumpstart your future? Look no further than the adult education programs at Malcolm X College. They have everything you need to get you started on a great career. From ESL classes to high school equivalency courses, MXC adult education students can even earn college credits while still in class through their Career Bridge and Gateway programs. Learn more at ccc.edu/adulted or call 773-COLLEGE.
Life can be stressful, but that doesn't stop your everyday hustle. Whether you're stuck in traffic or rushing to get to an appointment, you don't need anything to slow you down, like looking for a free ATM. At Wintrust, we think all ATMs should be convenient and free. That's why we created Total Access Checking. Use any ATM nationwide, and we'll refund the fee. Get your money wherever you are, whenever you need it, without being charged extra. Visit wintrust.com/TAC. Member FDIC.
Hi, I'm attorney Ernesto Borges. I'd like to invite you to join me for the Borges Report for lively discussions about legal matters, politics, government, entertainment, and the topics that concern you in your life. Start your Sunday the Borges way with the Borges Report.
The Borges Report with Ernesto Borges. Sunday mornings at 9 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
And it seems nobody's interested in learning but the teacher.
And we are back. It is 4:24. I'm Cliff Kelley, and in our studio, we are so pleased to have Dr. Umar Johnson, and we've got a number of callers, which he always creates. We're just so happy that you're here in the studio.
Yes, sir. It's been a year, a long time. Yes, sir.
But before we get into that, let's mention what's going on tonight.
Yes, sir. Tonight at the Harold Washington Cultural Center, I'll be speaking in Chicago tonight, 7 p.m. Doors open up at 6 for the first time since last year, so it's been 12 long months, a lot to cover. The major theme, though, is the purge. How the violence in Chicago is being used as a distraction away from the political corruption and the racial oppression. We want to talk about the economic situation, the political situation, the educational situation, the social situation, how Chicago is being purged of black people, and we're not paying attention to it because we're so caught up in the crimes.
And you're right, because I've always said, you're right on point, Doc, because we're going to lose a congressperson.
Yes.
We got so many people who have left here.
Yes.
Yeah.
The numbers are going down.
That's
exactly.
Right. And yeah.
What we're seeing, Baba Cliff, across the country, and obviously Chicago gets the most attention because it's the second largest black metropolis after New York City. So everything they do anywhere else, they want to test run it here.
Yeah.
You see, for the last 40 years, if you wanted to be elected in the black community, you needed the black vote. You had to win the black vote.
Right.
We're going back to the pre-1970s where you can win in a black district without many black votes because of the ethnic cleansing. So it's changing the entire political trajectory for the next 50 years.
This is going to be very interesting for sure. Let's take a caller before we take the break. Yeah. Robert, hi, you're on WVON 1690 with Dr. Umar Johnson.
Thanks for taking my call, Cliff, and good afternoon, Dr. Johnson.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Johnson is absolutely correct about the labor and the college scam, skullduggery, bamboozling that is going on in our community. There's an article, I'm looking at an article, Jet Magazine, April 11th, 1968, when Negro workers were excluded from model cities. I'm not sure, he's not probably old enough to recall model cities, but I know you do, Cliff.
Yeah.
And model city, well, it says that in summary, the Negroes were excluded from new construction conspired by the labor and the unions and working in plumbing, carpentry, and electricity. And this article was the week after the Kerner Commission report was addressed on the front cover of Jet magazine, April 4th, 1968, the day Dr. King was assassinated. So this conspiracy has been going on from time since we got off the slave ships. So Dr. Johnson's on point with this, and with the public school system eliminating trades, the trade schools, the vocational schools, and those trades where people were leaving high school going into apprenticeships. That has been eliminated by the rules of going to universities. Everyone is not matriculating up through university and colleges today.
Listen, Robert, I know you remember when we did have the trade school as part of the public school system, and when Mayor Washington, I had just mentioned it, was in office, the unions moved it out. They moved it out of the city.
Oh, Washburn, they took
Washburn. You got it. You got it. That's it. Right. Washburn. You're totally correct, Robert.
So I'm an alumni of Dunbar, along with Mansong.
Yes, sure.
With the Mary Mitchell. Well,
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Great folks in Dunbar.
So we need to bring that back.
That was great.
Keep up the good work.
Listen, thanks so much. That's a great call, Robert. Appreciate it. He's totally correct.
He's absolutely correct. In fact, back home in Philadelphia, Cliff, I was told by a prominent school district of Philadelphia board member that the reasons why they can't put the industrial building trade programs back in the high schools is because of the white unions. She told me directly. She said, Umar, we're trying to get them back in, and we're being blocked by the unions who control the politicians.
Don't doubt that at all.
So the whole and it's just a shame because there's so many children out there wasting away, committing crimes, and they talk about crime in Chicago. You hear President Trump talk about crime in Chicago, but he doesn't demystify it with the causes. See, everyone knows that the cause of crime is miseducation and economic castration. If you don't prepare me for the opportunity to earn a livable wage income, and then you don't give me an opportunity to earn that income. So the education has failed me, and now the economy has failed me. And a man's number one responsibility is to provide. And when you can't provide as a man, it does something to your self-respect, which generates the anger, generates the rage, generates the passion that turns into the homicide crisis that we have. Let's go back to the 1920s in Chicago. It wasn't the black men killing each other. It was Italians. It was Irish. It was Jews. They did the same thing we're doing now. But then the United States government stepped in the 1940s and gave the Irish the police department, gave the Italians the fire department, and gave the European Jews the downtown civil service government jobs. If you do the same thing for black men today, you'll see a reduction in our crime as well.
We'll be back with Dr. Umar Johnson. We're so pleased to have him here in the studio, and you'll have him mention again what he's doing this evening. Right now, we're going to take a quick break. And we are back. This is the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. I'm Cliff Kelley. It is TGIF Day, Friday, December 7th. We are on iHeartRadio, and 773-591-1690 is our number, and you can always get social, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Dr. Umar Johnson is still with us, and as you knew he would be. And we're going to, Doc, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
Great. And let's go right to the phones, okay? Dave is calling from Baltimore. Hi, Dave.
Thank you very much for taking my call,
Sure.
Governor and Dr. Umar. Yes, racist efforts urge you on the cows, Dr. Umar. And, Cliff, you were a member of the Constitutional Convention.
Right.
So what I was going to ask Dr. Umar, what does he think of civics? To know how to tap into civics, to find out, what, like, for example, the Science Committee, Bernice Johnson, black woman, Congresswoman, top of the Science Committee, how to tap into those things to try to get ahead or at least learn. I was talking to a few people, younger persons, and they said, I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's just basic civics to even know about how the government agencies are supposed to work for us as tax-paying citizens, and how to tap into that and try to do it even asymmetrically, so we can come about and understand. And I thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Dave,
thank you so much.
Dave, thank you so much for the call.
Thank you. I agree with him, Baba Cliff. I
do
think
too.
that we
I do
need
too.
political education, which I
Right.
think encompasses civics, but even go beyond civics,
Yes.
because although America claims to be this democracy, but when you look deeper at America, we have more of a totalitarian sort of a government, definitely an oligarchy, I would say, and even a bit of fascism in there, especially with the rise of Trump, because in a democracy, people have a right to their opinions. But if you look at local recent events, look at what they just did to Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Look what they just did to Mark Lamont Hill. They're censoring black folks all across the country for comments that are considered to be insensitive. But nobody's getting censored for what they say about black people. So the only type of government that allows people to control your expression of your opinion are what we call fascist governments and oligarchies.
You know, and Dave did make a good point, Doc. And when we were talking about Kaepernick and people were talking about all this,
Excellent point.
Which is terrible. And I said, you know, what's so bad about that? You know,
Exactly.
And the guy said, well, he shouldn't be doing this in a democracy. The guy said,
That's exactly what you do in a
I said,
democracy.
"A democracy. Do you know the Pledge of Allegiance? And the guy, of course I do. I said, well, recite it for me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
Yes, not
Doesn't
democracy.
say democracy.
Doesn't say democracy.
No,
In fact, the word democracy
yeah,
is not in the Constitution,
That's correct.
nor is it in any of the
That's right.
50 state constitutions.
So folks ought to understand that. That's why
Exactly.
I told him that, and he hung up on me.
It's not a democracy
That's
at
right.
all.
Nope. Let's go to Chris from Oak Park. Hey, Chris.
This is John from Princeton.
Oh,
How you
I'm
doing?
sorry, John. I'm reading the wrong thing here. Okay, John.
That's okay.
Okay.
I agree with the doctor's findings, and hopefully before he leaves, he can let us know where we can pick up some of his work. You know, as I listen,
Great.
as I read notes from Thomas Jefferson, that's another topic, but Thomas Jefferson talked about this so-called democracy back in the 1700s. Frederick Douglass talked about this so-called democracy in this country. So I agree with his finding. I remember in the 70s when I graduated from college, and my background was media. I got a job at CBS Broadcast Center in New York, and when I got there, it was just after the riots, and sure, a lot of us know the riots that happened. And I remember one of my friends that got a job at CBS talked about he was on the streets right after the riots in Manhattan, and trucks were pulling up, you want a job, you want a job. And guys were jumping in the truck and got jobs right away. So when I got there, the boat was closing. The game was closing at that point. So for 8 years I worked at CBS. They found every excuse and not to promote me. I left my field, went into the gas industry field, and I learned that trade. And they kept finding out ways to stop and move me up. So the game has changed so many times. What I've noticed over the last 30 to 40 years is they push the African-American woman, and I don't have a problem with that, but they changed the game and figured out a way to kill off the black man. And they keep changing the game, and I'll end with this, Professor, and I'm sure he can agree with us, me. Some of our black leaders are a part of the game, too. I'm not going to mention names, but some of them across the country play the game, too. So they're a part of the problem.
That's true, John. And John's calling from Princeton, New Jersey, by the way.
Princeton, New Jersey.
John, as always,
My
thank you so
backyard.
much. Appreciate it. You want to
Well, I
respond to
absolutely
that?
agree with him, Baba Cliff.
Yeah.
Well, remember now, you can't control a large population of black folks without some participation from members of the oppressed group.
True.
That's the whole theory behind the black bourgeoisie. White power cannot control black people without black participation. The problem is many of these black bourgeoisies we look up to as leaders. So there's a contradiction, and it's a little bit complicated to weed out who's authentic and who's not, because even when you have unauthentic African leaders, there's enough of us who support them. You know, President Obama, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. To some people, these men are great leaders. To other people, such as myself, they have been some of the most effectively used puppets of the white supremacist agenda.
Okay. Let's go to Charles.
How you doing, Cliff?
Fine, sir. Thanks for calling.
I'd like your guest to comment on what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 50, 60 years, the biggest mistake of the civil rights movement was to convince black people to turn their children over to white people to educate without a filter. And because education starts at home, like the first 5 years of a child's life, he's in that home. So that's when the education should start if he's going to turn them over to these people. And look at the results we have today.
All right. Thank you so
That's
much.
all I have.
Okay.
Well said. 2 points on that quickly, Baba Cliff. The first point, he's correct. However, we got to understand why Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, and the NAACP fought for the desegregation of public schools. It wasn't because we thought that our kids would learn better sitting next to white kids. It was for equal access to a quality education. But now in hindsight, we see that our children did better when they were segregated in the low-income, one-room black schoolhouse than when they were integrated in the upper middle-class white schoolhouse. So we can see now that it was a mistake. However, I did agree with their premise in tearing down that barrier, because sometimes a black child might need to attend an institution that gives them a quality of education that we can't provide. But here's the bigger question, Baba Cliff. Now that we know that it was a mistake, 60 years later, why aren't we reversing it? Nothing is stopping black people from building their own schools. What are we doing right now? We're in the midst of a historic holiday shopping season where black people are hemorrhaging billions of dollars on useless gifts that they won't even look at 2 weeks after New Year's, as opposed to redirecting that money into schools. If we want independent schools, we are $1 trillion people. We can have them. The truth of the matter is, white folk don't care about black children, but neither do black people.
Wow. Okay, we'll be back with more with Dr. Umar Johnson in just a moment. We'll take some more calls. Stay with us. And we are back. I'm Cliff Kelley. This is WVON TGIF Day Friday. And Dr. Umar Johnson is in the studio. We're going to get some more calls in just a moment, but I want him to make sure everybody knows what he's doing this evening.
Yes, indeed, black family. Come on out, Chicago. Dr. Umar Johnson is back for the first time since last December. 12 long months, a lot to discuss. It's going down tonight. Doors open up at 6 p.m. Harold Washington Cultural Center. All children are free. I take the stage at approximately 7. Get there, grab the kids. Don't change when you get home from work. Keep on going. I got a message to drop. Year-ending message to drop. 400 years coming up for us, 1619. 2019 is going down tonight. We got vendors in the building as well. Don't miss it. Harold Washington Cultural Center.
Great. That's the 47th and King Drive.
Yes, sir.
Everybody didn't know that.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay, Doc, let's go to another caller. Tommy is with us. Hi, Tommy.
Well, Cliff and Dr. Umar pretty much goes like this. Ladies and gentlemen, live here at the Harold Washington Theater, we want to present to you none other than the renowned Dr. Umar Johnson. And, sir, what will you have for us on tonight? And what is his opening comment? How dumb can you be? Love you guys.
Well said, Baba. Well said. So tonight I'm going to deal with politics, education, obviously the Chicago Purge. I'm going to talk about the Kevin Hart Oscar controversy. I'm also deal with the Mark Lamont Hill Israel CNN controversy. So we're just going to go around the world because it's been 12 months. So I'm going to try to touch on all the major highlights that have occurred and point us towards the future as we come up to this summer 2019, 400 years of black folks in America under white oppression, 1619 to 2019. Where do we go from here?
Okay. Dave, hi. You're on WVON with Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Cliff, and thank you to your distinguished guest. This is nothing but a conspiracy that's being played over and over, and it's racial and ethnic cleansing. And they got these clowns with this flipping houses. They're the destabilizers of a lot of communities, and they want to move people out of there and steal their property for nothing. So keep doing the good work. Tell everybody stay. Don't leave Chicago. It's going to be a good city again. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Okay, Dave. Thank you so much. Let's go to Chris. Hey, Chris. You're on WVLN with Dr. Johnson.
Hey, Governor, my main man, and Dr. Johnson, my other main man. Very big fan of yours. And, you speak truth to power. And I saw your last appearance on Roland's show where you had some coons you had to put in place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. What I wanted to say is Cliff noticed saying, all your skin folk ain't your kinfolk. So to our demise here in Chicago, we're a third of the population. No one questions why we're not a third of the police department. There's an old consent decree on that, and the police department, the old consent decree, and the black leadership says nothing about it. They closed 50 schools, Cliff, 50 or more. Mm-hmm. They were trying to close one of the top performing schools, the Teachers Academy. A judge just entered a junction to hold it off.
Right.
And the head of the school is Janet Jackson, a black figurehead. But all that would not go through without some of our people backstabbing us and with the lack of forethought. And you see the other communities flourishing, and like the doctor said earlier, the land grab, the crime, when other areas have the same, crime is just not reported like ours, because if it bleeds, it leads. Thank you for your time.
Chris, thank you so much.
Well said, Baba Cliff. This all goes back to one basic point. We are the only non-white ethnic group in the United States who cannot be deported. See, the reason America can let the Chinese, the Arab, the East Indian, the Mexican in, because they have a home that they can be sent back to if they misbehave. You don't have a home that you can be sent back to. Ironically, the white man created his own problem by disconnecting you psychologically from your birthland. And because you've been disconnected from your birthland for 400 years, you can't be deported because you don't have a psychological connection to it. So what do you do with 50 million people you do not want and want to get rid of? And you cannot deport. You have to create a system of internal extermination, abortion, hysterectomy, police genocide, mass incarceration, miseducation, LGBT. The list goes on and on and on. Kill them from within. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Let's see if we can get in one more.
Sure.
That's great. Tish, hi, from Little Village. Go right ahead.
Oh, thank you for taking my call, Governor, and good evening, Dr. Umar.
Good evening, sister.
Dr. Umar, you left one out. You separate them from their minds, which you are about putting their minds and their hearts together to work for the good of the people. But we first got to recognize that we are being bamboozled. We have to recognize the fact that, and there's one thing I disagree with you on, and it's the fact about that black love of children. You're black and you love our children and you love our people, but you're not giving that sappy worth a kind of love that's not worth anything. We have to activate, educate, and increase what we always had, an innate moral sense of survival and caring for our people. One of the drugs that they feed us is the drugs of advertising. That's the other form of fascist government that we have. And credit. The fact is, we go out there crazy and gleefully spending money on and using the form that they used to control us, which started in the 60s, credit. We run out there and spend money on stuff that we don't need. Talking about it's Christmas all over the world.
Tish, pardon me, sweetheart. I'm going to have to let you go. No, you're wonderful.
Sure.
Got to let you go. We're just out of time.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate you, Dr. Omar.
Thank you, Tish. You're more than welcome, sweetheart. We're through.
Yes, sir.
Give us. We got a minute.
We got 1 minute left. I just want to see everybody tonight. I haven't been in Chicago all year. I normally make it a little bit more often than this, but it's just been so much going on. Been looking for that school, and I think on New Year's Day, Bobby Cliff, I'll be announcing the location of the first school. And tonight at the Harold Washington Center, I'm gonna talk about the folks helping me find a satellite of the school in Chicago, because I want to build satellites all throughout the country.
Come back and talk to me.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Dr. Umar, Harold Washington Cultural Center. Bring the children. They are free. Be there or be square.
Thank you so much, Doc.